David Drucker, as I said at the top, there are dwindlingly fewer and fewer voters that are gettable, but there are ones that are still open to being convinced. And those are the ones who are likely going to decide this election. What are you hearing from folks in the Rust Belt as you're covering Team Harris?
Yeah, I'm at the convention center in downtown Detroit where Barack Obama will speak this evening. Yesterday, I was out in the suburbs in Oakland County, and it's a Democratic-leaning county. It's where Harris really has to run up the score if she's going to win a razor-thin race here in Michigan. And her strategy, in part, is to go after disaffected Republicans, but I think female Republicans even more so than men. And I think that's what the visual of traveling from suburban Philly to suburban Detroit to suburban Milwaukee on Monday with Liz Cheney was all about, to show this idea that Republicans and Democrats can get along and that she will listen. There have been complaints from some disaffected Republicans that the vice president isn't showing enough on policy, even though she has gone to the center on immigration, on some environmental issues, on some energy issues, and a few other things. They'd like to see more, but I think the way the Harris campaign is looking at it is that people want to return to normal politics. And when you see the two of them getting along the way they do, legitimately, it could make a difference. At least that's what they're banking on. You know, what everybody tells us here, I talk to voters, I talk to strategists, and I keep hearing the same thing. Well, this campaign feels good about that. We feel good about this. Voters tell me they're cautiously optimistic. I'd say Republican voters are a little bit more confident than cautiously optimistic. A lot of Democratic voters remember 2016. It's something they've told me over and over, whether I've been in Pennsylvania, here in Michigan, or elsewhere. And so really it is a battle now to try and mobilize every last bit of vote you have and try and win over that last bit of persuadables.
So I mentioned also at the top that it's a bid to show that women can get along, women can compromise, women can get things done. That's not just a lofty ideal. That there's data, there are numbers behind that. This is what we've seen in Congress. Women sponsor more legislation. They pass more legislation. They send their districts back more money. They work together better than men do, according to the data in Congress. When you see Kamala Harris out with Liz Cheney, and David, they're trying to find those female conservative voters, those female Republican voters. I wonder how effective it is. And I just want to play for you a little bit of sound we got from a voter over the weekend in Pennsylvania. This was one of our producers, Nora, speaking to a woman who says that she did not agree with the Roe v. Wade decision. She is a Republican. Here's how she explained herself.
I think so. But I think the Republicans are ignoring the fact of the Roe v. Wade overturn. I wasn't on board with that.
Oh, you weren't on board with that?
I wasn't.
How is that going to factor into your vote?
It won't. It's not enough. It's not enough of a reason to vote for her.
Do you have any concerns about Trump potentially signing a national abortion ban into law?
No, I do not. He will not do it. He wanted it back to the states, and that's what he did. And that was his platform from the beginning, and he did it.
David, I'm wondering, how does she line up with what you've heard from those voters, the ones that Harris is trying to get with Liz Cheney?
Look, I think that this lines up a lot with what we have seen, which is Republican voters broadly are giving Donald Trump wide latitude to make compromises on key issues, abortion being one of them. And they simply do not see him in the same way that so many others do. They don't think he's going to upend the Constitution. They don't think he's going to try and overturn an election. They don't think he tried to overturn the last election. They just simply have a completely different view of how he has conducted himself. And so, it's been interesting to watch the Harris campaign with the help of Liz Cheney, but even when not, focus in these recent days on January 6th and the way in which Trump operates that many, on the left, but even many independents feel could be dangerous to the sort of civic health of the country. But other Republican strategists focused on this, on wooing these disaffected Republicans for Harris, tell me that she's better off focusing on the economy and border security, which she has, but doing it more, that's what these voters want.
Let me actually play one more voter. This is a Democratic voter, despite the accent. He's an American voter who says that he believes that Harris should do just that, should hit the immigration issue, the border harder. Listen to him.
She needs to do something about the border issue, because that's what the Trump side keeps forcing down everybody's throats. That under Biden, there were a lot of migrants came over the border. So if they want to win undecideds and make a difference, then if she goes for that and says, I was a tough DA and I'm going to make sure the border is secure, that's all she needs to do.
Mark, why is she not doing that? Why, when she's asked, is there one thing you would change from the Biden administration, why doesn't she say it would have been tougher at the border? I don't think the Biden team made the right moves early on, and if it were me in charge, I would have done X, Y, or Z. President Obama, who's going to be campaigning today, deported more people than Donald Trump did. He was very tough on the border. Why does Kamala Harris not feel that she can have that sort of latitude?
Well, I mean, I think there's a big difference between what the second thing you just said about the Obama sort of record on this, than actually saying we made a mistake working in my current administration as vice president. At one, it's going to trigger a lot of people inside the administration she works in, but also it's an admission of failure, which you don't really want to get into at this late in the game. I mean, the fact is there's 2 weeks left. Early voting is starting in a lot of places. And, you know, they've already laid out their strategy, and they've been working their strategy for the last several months. Mostly, you know, around reproductive rights, obviously being their biggest issue. But look, at this point, they're running a very cautious race, which tends to happen at the end. I mean, I think in some ways, you know, she has been, you know, pretty not risky, but it's sort of come out of her comfort zone a little bit in some of these interviews she's done in the last week or so. But for the most part, I think, you know, they're probably not going to rock the boat message-wise in the final days here. And look, I mean, if she loses, obviously immigration is going to be one of the things that are blamed.
That's what I want to ask again about, because I don't really understand I don't want to anger people in the administration, because what's going to be harder for people in the administration than losing the next election? I mean, if you're looking at the numbers and voters are saying, I'm really concerned about the border, I'm really concerned about immigration, why is her campaign not responding to that?
I think it goes to how delicate things are still between her and Biden. I think to some degree the Democrats are not completely healed from the schisms of July, and I think this might be part of it. I mean, there is a bit of a tiptoeing around the record of the Biden administration, even by Kamala Harris herself, because she doesn't, I mean, for whatever reason, whether it's personal with Biden, whether it's the kind of loyalty that she feels that she can't sort of veer from, or even that, you know, she feels like she would be blamed if there is any kind of admission of weakness on this issue, she doesn't feel like she can do it. So for whatever reason, again, this will be second guessed to death if they lose. She doesn't feel like she can get there.
I didn't have time to go over this with you guys, but I'm going to mention one more set of numbers that I think is pretty interesting. This is a analysis by the Financial Times on both of their donor filings. Kamala Harris has gotten 4.9 million donors. Those are individual donors for her campaign. Donald Trump has received money from 1.37 million donors. I wonder if that'll be an interesting indicator as we head past November 5th, as we get the results. David Drucker, Mark Leibovich, gentlemen, thank you very much.